Hello again. So here we are in Photoshop, and in this video tutorial I'm going to talk about the crop tool and all the neat things it can do, such as fix the perspective in your image, crop of course, straighten, and also some rotation. So the image I have here is Beaver's Sail. You don't have this image, but for your homework assignment you have an image that's in a similar pickle, being that it needs not only to get cropped, but it also needs to get rotated. So this image is supposed to be rotated counterclockwise. So it would be a horizontal image with this on the left-hand side. So I am going to go up to Image, Image Rotation, and I'm going to choose 90 degrees counterclockwise. But you can see there are a lot of other choices here if I needed to rotate it clockwise, or just if I wanted to flip the canvas horizontally or vertically, this is the place I would go. So I'm going to choose 90 degrees counterclockwise, and now my image is starting to come together. It's really hard to see here, but I took this photograph because I came across this beaver dam in the river, and there's a sign here that says for sale. I thought that was kind of funny. Anyway, so I have the crop tool selected, but let's say I open up the image and I didn't have that tool selected, so this is the way it would look. And then what I want is to get rid of the white border that's all around here. This was an image that was scanned in from a negative, so that's why it has this extra here. I'm going to move over to my toolbar and take the crop tool. And as soon as I select that, it created a default bounding box around here. And you can see that there are certain points on my bounding box that are anchor points that when I click or when I hover over them, I get the double arrow. And that means I can click and I can drag in. So what I want to do is I want the area that's going to be selected, that's on the inside of this bounding box, to be the area that I want to keep within after I have cropped off. So cropping is like cutting. Everything outside my selection is going to get cut off. Now we have some choices. I'm going to just cut off a little bit more of the image than I actually want, just so I can show you. So this is the way it is right now. This is called, it's in its preliminary state. I haven't actually made the crop yet until I go up here to the options bar, and I have two important choices to make. Either I'm going to cancel this or I'm going to commit to it. But besides that, I also have an option down here which says delete cropped pixels, or if it's unchecked, it will not delete them. So what does this mean? If I know for sure this is the final selection, the final cut I want to make, I don't want to have any of this, I could choose to delete those crop pixels. So if you noticed, I still have this preliminary view here. I haven't actually made the crop. I'm now going to go ahead and commit to the crop, and those pixels are gone. If, for example, I take my hand tool and I try to move it to the left or the right, there's nothing. They're absolutely gone. So with my history panel open, I'm going to step back a state back to before I made my crop, and I'll take the crop tool again and do approximately the same kind of crop. I'm just going to click and drag things in. But this time I'm going to uncheck delete cropped pixels, make a bit of a stronger one, and hit the check mark to commit to it. Take that hand tool or use the keyboard's shortcut space. Oh, sorry, it's not the hand tool I want, it's the move tool. Sorry, my mistake there. And using this move tool, you can see that I can now access, I can move it around the parts that were not cropped off. So they were not deleted, they're actually still there. And I could decide to kind of move this left and right. Once this move tool is selected, I could also use the left and right arrow keys on my keyboard to, or even the top and the bottom, to adjust things. So it's kind of up to you. What do you want to do? To delete the cropped pixels or to leave them? I think it's generally better just to kind of leave them. It gives you some more options. So that's it for that process with the crop tool. Basically, you make your selection, and then you go up to the options bar and you hit the check mark. Something else we can do with crop is fix the perspective. Here is an image that is shot obviously from lower down, probably on the sidewalk pointing up, and we can see the perspective of this image is skewed. In other words, the reality of the building is it's not skewed in like this, but this should be straight. So to do this, I'm going to take the perspective crop tool, which is embedded within the regular crop tool section. I'm going to select that one. I'm going to make a preliminary selection over my entire image. So I can even start out here and just click and drag all the way over to make sure I get everything. I get a grid that can really help me with the lines. And what I want to do is to take the top part of my perspectives crop, and I'm going to drag it in so that the line that I see here with the grid is now parallel to the line on my building that I want to become straight. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. This side's a little trickier. I'm going to end up having to lose some of the buildings. This side has some image to the left of, I'm following along on this line here. This one I'm basically going to have my crop cut off all of this part of the building to be able to line that up. So you see how this line here is following the perspective of the bricks on this section of the building. I can let it continue following up. So now when I hit the commit, it's going to straighten. There we go. So now these lines are now parallel to the edge of my screen, and it looks like someone had a hovercraft or something and they were hovering up across from this building somewhere where they could get a straight on perspective. So there's no distortion to it. Alright, I'm just going to run through that again very quickly. So I went into my history panel and I undid it. You take the perspective crop tool, you make a preliminary selection over everything, and then you're going to take whichever section, however the perspective is off, and you're going to try to get your grid using your anchor points to follow the perspective so that you get parallel lines. So this is now parallel to the lines of this building, and then you commit. And boom, it straightened it for you. So it can do a really good job with buildings. Never try to do this with people. It'll end up distorting them too much. We're moving over to this image over here. What I want to do is I actually just want to straighten it a little bit. I don't need to crop it, but it really bothers me how the horizon line is crooked. So I'm going to go back to the regular crop tool, and again it just made this automatic default selection over everything. And I'm going to go up to the options bar and choose the tool to straighten. And what I want to do is this is actually a ruler, I'm going to draw a line along the edge that I want it to straighten. So I'm going to start here, I'm going to hold down my mouse, and see I could go anywhere I want, doesn't matter until I get to the other side and I let go. So I'm holding down my mouse and I'm dragging it all the way to the other side, and that's just checking that I'm following along the horizon line. And when I let go, Photoshop through the crop tool measured what I had measured, and it rotated based on that, assuming I wanted it to be straight line. And so now I have to make some choices. This is the size of my original image, and I could see that if I tried to scoot over this way a little bit, I'm going to end up losing some of my image. So I can kind of just move it around, move this preliminary crop around, and I can use the arrow keys too as well. Sometimes that's just easier. And when I found the section of the image that I want to keep, so I do end up losing a little bit of it, but that's okay. I'm going to hit the commit button, and there it is. And remember, because I didn't delete those pixels, they're still there. So I could take that first tool, which is the move tool, and I could move this a little bit to the left and to the right. They're actually still there. They wouldn't show up when printed or when you save it as a JPEG and it goes onto a web or anything, but in the Photoshop file, those edges are still there. And so now my horizon line has been straightened. And we'll do two things here with this image. I'll do it with the ruler, and I'll also do it with the crop tool. So this image, it has to get cropped and it has to get straightened. So I'm going to take the crop tool, I get my preliminary selection, and also notice when I move my mouse just outside of that preliminary selection, I get the curved double arrow, which means it becomes a rotation tool. So clicking and holding down with my mouse, I am actually rotating my image, and I'm going to rotate it so it came with this with a viewing grid, and that helps me to see my alignment until I get my flower straight, and then I can let go. And now I see I'm still going to have to adjust my crop a little bit once I rotate it. My visible area, or the area that's left over that still has image, has to get to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to move these bounding boxes in a little bit, and once I'm happy with that, I'll commit, and there's my image now straightened. Again, I could take that move tool, and I do prefer using the arrow keys. I feel like I have a little more control, and if I want to kind of just see how, if I got exactly the right selection, or if I want to move it a little bit to the left or to the right or up or down, I could do that. So now I'm going to go through the history panel, and I'm going to undo this, and I'll do the same thing with the straighten option instead. So I'll take my crop tool, and I'll go up to straighten, and I could do the same thing. I just wanted to show you because in the last example I was straightening my image based on a horizontal, and this one I'm going to do it based on a vertical. So again, I clicked and I'm holding down the mouse. I'm at the tip of that flower, and I'm going to go all the way down to the middle, and I'm trying to imagine that I am drawing what I want to be straight. I'm tracing that, and then I let go of my mouse, and it straightened it for me. So it will do this vertically as well. And I'm still in that situation where I have a little bit too much image, so I have to pull in from the left and the right and a tiny bit on the top, and then I commit to it, and now I have a nice straightened image. Okay, so I hope this helps you with all of your future assignments, but you have homework that is specific to this that will have you rotating. So remember to big rotation, image rotation, to do that 90 degrees or 180 degrees. And then for the smaller amounts, you can use the crop tool, either with the arrow, the double arrow here, or with the straighten tool. And then to fix the perspective, so something which is skewed, it's distorted in perspective, we're going to use the perspective tool.